is another absolutely glorious weather day in downtown Cincinnati, and we welcome you to Great American Ballpark. A doubleheader comes your way today. The Pittsburgh Pirates and the Reds making up for a washed-out game earlier this summer. Grounds crew hard at work. They'll be working late into the night as Kip Wells is set to start Game 1 of this doubleheader. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball. So here we go, the first of two. And really, when this season began, Chris, and you look at the starting lineups for both the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds, it is amazing when you look at the names, how few of those players are even with their respective organizations at the end of August.
Well, both of these teams have gone under a major transition, obviously, and you see on the Pirates side, Ryan Domit and Andy LaRoche, Brandon Moss, two of those guys are in the lineup today, but only three from the opening day lineup are here, and the Reds are the same way. Remember, the Pirates, though, they traded away a lot of their players. This was a major undertaking by Neil Huntington and the Pirates front office to remake this ball club, remake the roster, and trying to get good AAA and AA prospects in return, and they're running out a very, very young team. The Reds, on the other hand, essentially victims of a lot of injuries after injury after injury. And, you know, Dusty Baker's still trying to figure out how it happened and really what to do about it.
Well, Joey Votto is in the lineup. He was the only guy, when you saw a player still with the organization, that's actually in the starting lineup for Game 1. And they'll be facing a pitcher they've never seen before. He makes his major league debut today, Daniel McCutchen. We'll talk about him when we return.
Any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without
First of two. The second game won't begin until 7:10 tonight. We'll have that one for you as well here on Fox Sports Ohio. Our G pitching matchup, Kip Wells for the Reds. Daniel McCutchen, called up from AAA Indianapolis, makes his major league debut for the Bucks.
He's had a very good AAA season, as you say. He's earned his call-up, 13-6 overall for McCutchen. One of those guys that came over from the Yankees in the big deal that the Pirates had with the Yankees last year, sending Damaso Marte and others to New York, and they got a slew of players in return. McCutchen, one of those, with a very good earned run average. Kip Wells, he was a Pirate himself in the years 2002 through 2006, and he's had a pretty good run when he has pitched against his old team before. We'll see what Kip, in his second start, has to run out there for the Reds this afternoon. McCutchen is pretty much a control pitcher, not a guy that's going to dazzle you with the overpowering fastball. He's going to work the count. He's going to be able to work the corners. At least that's the scouting report that we get on him, Tom. So a couple of guys that should be around the plate this afternoon.
Ernie Banks used to say in his days as a Cub, let's play two. And that we will do along the banks of the Ohio in just a moment. Sports Ohio brought to you by Chrysler. The Chrysler summer clearance is here. Get to your Chrysler dealer today for some of the best deals of the season. By State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. By Dodge, the Dodge summer clearance is here. Check out some of the best deals all year long. By Just for Men, stay in the game with Just for Men hair color. And by Skyline Chili. You know it's Skyline time when you get that craving for a Skyline three-way or cheese coney. Beautiful day, very small crowd. This game being played due to the result of a rainout here back in the month of April. The fourth game of the year, in fact. And the Reds have not played a doubleheader at home since July the 2nd of 2005 against Houston. They split that doubleheader. And the last time the Reds and the Pirates played a doubleheader here was back on July the 2nd, 1993. So it's been a while. You rarely see them anymore. This one, the day-night variety.
Well, the day-night variety oftentimes happens in those stadiums where you get a full sellout crowd. And the home team wants to be able to capture both of the gates. Today, the Reds are taking a chance at it this afternoon, a 1 o'clock game and a 7 o'clock game tonight.
Well, with all the extra inning games the Reds have played of late, our Geico Direct quote of the game followed yesterday's 12-inning affair from manager Dusty Baker.
Last thing we needed today was 12 innings. We just got back to, to almost whole. So we got to do something. We got to probably get another pitcher in here, for at least one of the games tomorrow.
waiting on that roster move are the Reds. We figure there will be some kind of pitching maneuver, change, personnel made in between games of this doubleheader.
And it may depend on what happens in this first game to determine what move they make. For instance, if they were to use a lot of pitchers out of the bullpen, they may drop a pitcher off. Remember that on September 1st, starting tomorrow, the Reds can, and every other major league team can expand their roster. So whoever gets sent out is likely to become reactivated tomorrow. So it's more of a procedural move than anything else.
Let's take a look at the U.S. Bank starting lineup for John Russell's Pirates. Andrew McCutchen, red hot right now, leads off in center. Delwyn Young at second. And Garrett Jones will bat third and play first. Andy LaRoche down at third base. Brandon Moss in right. Lastings Milligan left. A ladder third of shortstop Ronnie Cedeno. Jason Jaramillo behind the plate for Daniel McCutchen. And on the mound for the Reds, came up originally as a Pittsburgh Pirate after coming over with his first team, the Chicago White Sox, was with the Pirates in 2002, his right-hander Kip Wells.
Well, he made 26 relief appearances so far in 2009 before getting his first start. That was last Sunday for the Reds against the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Reds ended up winning that ball game in extra innings. Actually in the rotation in the absence of Aaron Harang. Harang, of course, sidelined to the rest of the season due to an emergency appendectomy. He's doing fine, by the way. See him around the clubhouse, but of course he can't do any physical activity, which essentially erases him entirely for the 2009 season. Kip Wells against his former team is 3-1 with a pretty good earned run average right around 2.7 in 7 appearances overall. He's had 3 starts against the Pirates lifetime. And he's got to have a little extra something going, because anytime you pitch against your former team, it have a tendency to crank it up a little bit. Even if there's a lot of new names and new faces that you don't recognize, you still have something going on.
You know, you mentioned that game that Wells threw against the Brewers. They really needed him because of the extra inning game played the night before. He gave them 5 solid innings in that game, gave up 3 runs.
Well, the Reds have had a lot of extra inning games. In fact, Dusty Baker has seen his team play 3 extra inning games in the last 6 days. 5 in the last 12. So when you start adding up all the innings that you have to cover with your relief corps, that's where it becomes very touchy for a manager.
Andrew McCutchen at 293. The rookie has 10 home runs, 43 runs batted in. He has a leadoff hit in 6 of the last 7 games. He looks at ball 1 in this game underway. Only 68 degrees here at game time today under mostly sunny skies. And it's 2-0 on McCutchen. You know, you look inside some of the numbers for Wells. If you look at the win-loss record and the ERA, you think not very good. 0-3, 5.85 ERA. You delve further in the numbers, he's been very hard to hit. The league is only batting .245 against him. He's given up just 3 home runs in over 40 innings. But the problem, Chris Welsh, control. In those 40 innings, 26 walks.
Well, sometimes, you know, Tom, when you're wild outside the strike zone, you're also wild inside the strike zone, and would normally believe that you'd get more home runs. But as you can see from his first 2 deliveries anyway, he's trying to keep the ball down. He's got a nice sinking fastball, and for Kip Wells, has never been about stuff. He's had plenty of stuff. I mean, if you want to call velocity on his fastball stuff, good breaking ball stuff, it's a matter of him being able to sustain it through a period of a ball game and over the course of a season.
Two and 2 on McCutchen, and a ground ball sharply hit. Roland to his right, throws a one-hopper, and a nice play by Votto. Nicely done on the corners. That was not an easy play for Joey at first on that one-hopper.
Not an easy play for Roland to start it off either, and this is the first time after you see Roland do a nice backhand right here. First time in my recollection since putting a Reds uniform on that it has not been a perfect throw across the infield for Scott Roland. I mean, he's almost been like money in the bank to hit Votto in the chest. This time Votto gets the pick it, and actually that's an easy pick right there. It bounces well in front of first base. Votto's able to make the cover and keep his foot on the bag.
Now Delwyn Young at 297, 6 home runs, 38 runs batted in. We have a long day to talk about this Pirate team, and you saw them last weekend, Chris, in Pittsburgh. What are your thoughts about all the changes they've made?
Well, you know, they've had, what, 17 years of losing baseball in a row in Pittsburgh, And I think that they've had enough is enough. They've had different rebuilding plans over the years that simply haven't worked. You have a patch here and put a Band-Aid on that. And finally, Neil Huntington, the general manager, decided, you know what, we are in last place with players like Adam LaRoche and Freddie Sanchez and Nate McLouth and so on. Let's blow this thing up and see what happens. And I think that's what they're doing. They're trying to get as much talent in as possible, almost the way the Florida Marlins have tried to do it and have done it successfully over the last decade. So they've had a lot of work to do. There's no question about it. They still are not a large market team. They don't have a lot of money to spend. But you can see that the players that are traded include a lot of pretty good ball players there. All-stars, former all-stars, and guys that you'd like to have as a nucleus of your club.
And a former batting champion in Sanchez, now with the Giants. There's a roller foul up the first baseline. 2-2 to Delwyn Young. There was a time when Wells was a very highly thought of young pitcher. A first-round pick by the White Sox back in 1998, was traded to the Pirates in 2001. He won 10 games for the White Sox in 01, won 12 games with an ERA right around 3.5 in 02. In 03 his ERA was 3.28 and he won 10 games. But then all of a sudden the injuries began, and thus a number of different organizations. He had a blocked artery in his right arm back in 06. He had a blood clot in his right hand in 08. And this year, after starting with Washington, came over to the Reds organization, and now he makes his second start. 2 away in the inning, or did he get a piece of it? No, that's strike 3. The defense behind Kip Wells, presented by Ford. Stubbs in center field, playing by Valentin and Johnny Gomes. Along the infield, Roland Rosales at short, Drew Sutton the start at second, and Votto at first. A battery of Kip Wells and Craig Tatum. Sure, we'll see Brandon Phillips in game 2, Paul Yadish in game 2. But that won't be until 6 hours from now, a 7:10 first pitch. And again, we remind you, a full day of baseball right here on Fox Sports Ohio. We'll have Reds Live coming your way at 6:30 tonight, and the game a little after 7, followed by Reds Live, the post-game edition. 1-0 to Garrett Jones, who has 16 home runs, 31 batted in his 51 games as a Pirate, and 4 points shy of a .300 batter.
He's one of the few Pirates that are in this ball game or on the roster who have not come over in a trade. He was signed as a minor league free agent in the offseason. He's paid off pretty big dividends. He's had good numbers so far, nearly a .300 hitter, and good bat speed.
2-1.
Anytime you can get yourself a minor league free agent signing and he is your number 3 hitter in the lineup, tells you 2 things. Number 1, you didn't have a real good number 3 hitter to start with, but number 2, you may have found a little diamond in the rough right here. That's why it's so important to know who you're scouting and who's out there when they become available.
In the air, short right center field, backing up on it the second baseman Sutton, and a good start for Wells. He retires aside in order. So Daniel McCutchen makes his major league debut as the Reds come to bat in a moment. major league debut. Chris, I'm sure you can remember your debut like it was yesterday. We'll get to that in a moment, although it was a long time before yesterday. Red starting lineup brought to you by U.S. Bank. Drew Stubbs, Drew Sutton, Joey Votto to start things. Great numbers for Joey against the Bucks. Scott Rowland at third, Johnny Gomes in right, Vladimir Valentin in left. Adam Rosales, Craig Tatum, Kip Wells, the latter third.
Well, it is a big time for this young man, Daniel McCutchen. 13 wins in AAA. Had a pretty good season, so you've earned your way up. And I guarantee you, anybody who's made a start as a major leaguer as your debut, it's not necessarily the time that you're on the mound, but it's the time leading up to the mound that is the most worrisome. Yeah, you're thinking about the night before. You're thinking about it as soon as you heard about it. I'm not sure when they told Daniel that he would be making the start today, but from right there, the anxiety builds, and it builds and builds. After he throws the first pitch, after he gets the first out, it'll seem to all melt away. And the thing that's going in his behalf is the fact that he's facing some guys that he has probably faced before this year in the minor leagues, like Drew Sutton and Drew Stubbs.
So it is Stubbs to lead things off. 11 hits in his first 52 major league at bats. He looks at a strike. When was your major league debut and where was it?
Well, it was in Candlestick Park, second game of the season in 1981. First pitch I threw was hit by Bill North over the head of Rupert Jones in dead center field, who caught it against the center field wall. That one will not be caught, though, will it?
Deep left field, Drew Stubbs has his second major league home run. So on the second pitch in Daniel McCutchen's major league career, he surrenders a home run. It's 1-0 Red.
Second home run in the season for Drew Stubbs. His first one was a walk-off game winner, and he gets a little wrinkle of a breaking ball right there that didn't have a whole lot of depth, and he launches it. Showing some power right there is the Reds' young center fielder. That is the first leadoff home run of the season for the Reds. How about that?
The words right out of my mouth. Unbelievably, the first one all year long.
Well, now the pressure's off of Daniel McCutchen. Shutout's gone. No hitter's gone. Perfect game is gone. All the things that you dream about maybe making history in your first major league start. Now you can buckle down to business and just try to pitch yourself a good game.
It has been almost one calendar year since the Reds had a leadoff home run in a game. Chris Dickerson on September the 2nd last season against the Pirates. The last time it happened until today. 2-2 to Drew Sutton. This should be Mr. McCutchen's first out as a big league pitcher. It is. The Pirates defensively behind McCutchen today have Andrew McCutchen in center, Lasting Millage in left, Brandon Moss in right, LaRoche Cedeno, Young Jones third to first, and Jason Jaramillo behind the plate. Understand Ryan Doman, the Pirates' regular catcher, over the weekend did not run out a ball that he hit and was promptly removed from the game by manager John Russell. He has not started a game since. I'm sure we'll see him, or one would suspect we'll see him, in game 2 of this doubleheader. 2-0 to Joey Votto, a .312 batter, 20 home runs and 65 runs batted in. Two and one. Joey entering play today, the 7th best batting average among all National Leaguers. The amazing Hanley Ramirez of the Florida Marlins continues to lead the league, batting at .359. The major league's leading hitter is Joe Mauer of the Minnesota Twins. More unbelievably considering his position behind the plate. Batting .367.
Well, Joey just happened and happy to see a right-handed pitcher on the mound. Yesterday had a tough day at the plate. Struck out 3 times against Clayton Kershaw, who struck out 11 overall. The Dodgers struck out 20 Reds yesterday, and they got Votto 4 times total.
The 20 strikeouts, 2 shy of the Reds' franchise record, and their highest single game total since they struck out 21 times in that 4-3 loss back in May of 01 at Arizona, and that was in 11 innings. That was a night you may remember Randy Johnson struck out 20. Lined into center, caught by McCutchen, 2 away in the inning.
You think that you strike out 20 times and you're going to be in a blowout. I mean, on the wrong end of a blowout, but the Reds had several chances to win that ball game yesterday. In fact, if it weren't for a bad hop or a different type of a play on a ball that was hit up the middle, they would have been able to win that ball game in regular time, 2-1.
Well, I mean, you think about it. The last time you strike out over 20, it's 21 times, and you get beat in 11 innings by a run. Yesterday, you strike out 20, and you lose by a run in 12.
So you're telling me strikeouts are overrated?
I don't know, but there's got to be some kind of record there. Bottom line is you're 0-2. Of course, Randy Johnson in that game became only the 3rd pitcher in Major League history to strike out 20 or more in a game. There's a 1-hopper down to first, and that'll end the inning. But Drew Stubbs leads things off with a home run, giving the Reds a 1-0 lead. Out serious lawyers for serious injuries. Well, let's play 2. I wouldn't be surprised if Joey Votto plays both ends of this doubleheader, would you? I
wouldn't be surprised if Scott Rowland played both ends of this doubleheader. Maybe even Drew Stubbs. Of course, when you're racked with injuries the way the Reds are, and they're going to play 2 today, Johnny Cueto will get the call this afternoon as our Elk and Elk serious lawyers for serious injuries. Let's play 2. You called it right from the start. Ernie Banks, Chicago Cubs. He can't go anywhere without people yelling at him. Huh?
You're right. And, you know, he's such a great treasure. Not only a baseball treasure, he's a Hall of Famer, but just as a guy. I mean, wherever he goes, he's always smiling, in a great mood. Had a chance to get to know him pretty well. The 6 years I was working there, of course, you know, those group of Cubs all together there in the 60s. A very tight-knit bunch, even now.
They came around a lot, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, great guys. Billy Williams and Ernie Banks, Ron Santo, and Glenn Beckert, Don Kessinger, Randy Hundley, right on down the line.
Oh, it's outside.
Ferguson Jenkins. But could never win it. Could never get to the playoffs. Reds leading 1-0. Pirates batting the second against Kip Wells. 2-0 on Andy LaRoche, the Pirates' regular third baseman. He's been there, one of the few that's been there all year long.
Yeah, and he's in a different spot now than he was earlier. You know, when you had guys like Sanchez and McLeod and his brother Adam LaRoche around, he wasn't put up in the number 4 spot in the order. So he's asked to be the cleanup hitter right here. And sometimes when you have a major transition like the Pirates have gone through this year, you end up putting a player or two in positions that is almost unfair. I mean, Andy LaRoche, even looking forward, probably not going to be a number 4 hitter in a contending team, but that's where he is right now. You have to take it what it is. He has some opportunities for some runs batted in when he gets those guys on.
3-2 on LaRoche, to be followed by Brandon Moss and then Lastings Miller.
Now, one thing about Kip Wells, you see when he has missed so far this afternoon, down. He is just trying to pound the bottom of the strike zone, hit the hollow of the knees.
Rosales to the glove side. The pirouette, a perfect throw to Votto, and they're 4 up and 4 down for Mr. Wells. Now, Chris, with this game being a makeup game and an extremely small crowd, is it hard to find that adrenaline if you're a major league player, pitcher, whatever the case may be today?
That depends really where you're coming from. You know, you shouldn't have to make an excuse like that. But if you're a young player or a player that's on the fringe of not being a major league player next year, you shouldn't have a problem finding motivation. I mean, Daniel McCutchen is making his major league debut, so there's no problem there. Kip Wells has been around a long time, but he might be pitching for his major league life in every start he gets between now and the end of the year, so he shouldn't have a problem making motivation. And then you have old pros like Scott Rowland who are just going to go out and play hard every time they take the field. So I think not. You know, the Pirates over all the years, quite frankly, have been used to playing in front of paltry crowds, and maybe that is some reason for, you know, their lack of play. But you know, you go out and play the game. You're a big leaguer. You're on TV. There are people watching all over the world, and you might as well go ahead and give it every effort you can.
Two-one delivery. Swing and a miss to even a count.
In fact, I got an email before the ball game today from Brian and Julia Abrams. We plan to watch this ball game in Bangkok, Thailand.
What time is it there? You have any idea?
I think it's in the middle of the night.
Well, you're really going out on a limb there. I mean, come on.
What, I look like a geography teacher?
It's the middle of the night somewhere. There's a fly ball in the center, and what a nice play by Stubbs, who already has a home run in the game. Voted the International League's best defensive outfielder with the best arm, and showing off his defensive prowess there.
I think he's been very impressive, especially defensively. Stubbs has. He makes a nice grab right there, kicks up a couple of divots in the process. Knee divots, and Kip Wells going to give him a little bit of a golf applause right there. And that ball seemed to die on Drew Stubbs out there. The wind today, kind of unusual, especially for August. Of course, it's an unusually cool day, 68 degrees at game time in Cincinnati in August. Are you kidding? That would never happen normally, but the wind blowing out of the north a little bit and not helping those balls as they normally do shoot the gaps out here at Great American Ballpark, where the ball normally flies very, very well.
Well, we have been extremely fortunate in these parts this summer. It has been a spectacular summer. Coolest month of July in the history of Cincinnati, and right into August, and these last couple of weeks have just been beautiful, and expecting more of the same this entire week. 1-1 pitch, swing and a miss. 1-2 on Lastings Miller. See, I've heard you use that line you used a moment ago, but in a different context. I can't remember where we were about 9-10 o'clock in the morning on the road last year, and you said, hey, it's 4 o'clock somewhere.
You're probably right. It was probably an off day, I hope.
It was.
Good thing you're right there with me.
That's exactly right. 2-2 to Millage.
I think to make it more accurate, I said it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
No, you were, because you tend to lean a little closer to 4 than 5. You like getting that early start. 2-2 on Millage. Full foul. Of course, I think it was Jim Day who said, hey, it's noon somewhere. Millage, a former #1 pick by the New York Mets, came over from the Washington Nationals this year. And he's finally going to get a chance, Chris, to play regularly, and they're going to find out if he can live up to all that potential we heard about when he first came to the major league.
Well, he's got a decent batting average. 276 is where he comes in today. But what bothers me about his numbers, if you just look at the numbers, only 5 bases on balls and 28 strikeouts. That shows me a little trouble with pitch recognition.
He comes into this series, however, red hot. Had a 3-hit game yesterday. And going back to August the 17th, batting at a .395 clip with a couple of home runs, 5 batted in, and has scored 7 times. Reds lead 1-0 on a first-inning home run by Drew Stubbs. 2 outs, nobody on, 3-2 pitch, and that's a walk. First base runner of the game for the Pirates, and here comes Ronnie Cedeno. We've seen him in the past with the Cubbies. Well, here we are 1 day away before Major League Baseball teams can expand their rosters, and the Pirates go into play today with the 3rd youngest roster in all of Major League Baseball. Cleveland Indians, by a matter of days, 17 of them to be exact, younger than the Arizona Diamondbacks. Then the Pirates check in 3rd, San Diego and Oakland 4th and 5th. And all those teams have one thing in common. They are nowhere near reaching the postseason here in 2009. Cedeno hitting the back.
Oh, it appeared to be a very easy inning for Kip Wells after retiring the first couple of batters in this inning. Has now dug himself a little bit of a hole. Walks the previous hitter, last inning's Millage, and gets Ronnie Cedeno on the hip. First couple of runners on base now with 2 outs.
Well, now Jason Jaramillo, the batter. Jaramillo, 26 years old, out of Racine, Wisconsin. And he takes on the inside corner, a strike.
Of course, Jaramillo out of Wisconsin, born there, but he went to college at Oklahoma State. Today, the pitcher that he is catching pitched at Oklahoma. So we got a couple of Sooner country guys going at it with each other in the battery.
Yeah, but you never call one of those Oklahoma State Cowboy guys a Sooner anything.
And you don't call those Cowboy, you don't call the Sooners a Cowboy.
No, no. One and one to Jaramillo. 2 on, 1, 2 out, and there's a strike.
All right, so I got to pose a question for you about that. You have Daniel McCutcheon, went to University of Oklahoma. You have Jaramillo, the catcher at Oklahoma State, and in the batter's box in the bottom of the first inning to start it off, you had Drew Stubbs from the University of Texas. Do you think that it could have been a possibility that Jaramillo would have whispered to Stubbs fastball right before that home run, just to kind of settle maybe a college problem?
Very interesting question there. Not bad. Not bad. We'll ask him about it after the game.
I mean, those go deep, you know, in Oklahoma now.
I'm sure Daniel McCutcheon would really appreciate that.
To which Jaramillo could have said, hey, you could have been a Cowboy instead of a Sooner.
Well, there's a Sooner waiting on deck, hoping to see him later, like in the third inning. Here's a 2-2 pitch. Ball 3. Well, now the runners get started. After retiring the first 5 batters, a walk, a hit batsman, and now a full count to Jaramillo. 26 pitches thrown in this inning by Kip Wells. And here comes a payoff pitch to Jaramillo. We'll do it again.
Well, they really like this young man behind the plate. Of course, Ryan Doman is the everyday catcher so far for the Pittsburgh Pirates. There's rumor, or at least some talk, about perhaps moving Doman to first base next year so that they can see more of this guy behind the dish.
Three and 2 on Jaramillo. And again, the runners get started. Millage and Cedeno. And it's a base hit into left field. It'll tie the game. Millage easily scores on a third. Cedeno and Jaramillo, his 21st run batted in. It's a 1-1 game.
Well, is that a good swing by Jaramillo? He knows that Wells has a fastball, and he's more than likely to throw in a 3-2 count. It's going to run away from him a little bit. He keeps his hands inside the ball and kind of takes that ball the other way. Finds a base hit on the 5.5 hole over there next to third base. And they tie this baby up. Boy, all undone at the bottom of the inning after 2 outs by a walk and a hit batter. Well, you just make it tough on yourself when you do that.
Well, a major league debut for Daniel McCutcheon, and obviously this will be his first big league plate appearance. Runners on the corners in a 1-1 game. Strike 1. Well, you think about Jaramillo. Mentioned that he grew up in Racine, Wisconsin. Yes, played collegiately at Oklahoma State, but you know, there really aren't a lot of Major League Baseball players that come out of Wisconsin. I mean, obviously there are some, but certainly you see a lot more football players, a lot of hockey players, but very few baseball players come out of Wisconsin. In fact, the University of Wisconsin does not have a college baseball team. Their athletic director, of course, the legendary Barry Alvarez, who won 3 Rose Bowls as the head football coach of Wisconsin. Well, Daniel McCutcheon, his first major league at bat, he gets a hit and knocks in a run and gives himself a 2-1 lead.
Pretty good bit of hitting right here. He takes a pitch and goes the other way, just as his battery mate Jason Jaramillo hit the ball opposite field to get a base hit. And he's got a whole crowd here. Tammy and Tim McCutcheon coming all the way in from Sooner Country in Norman, Oklahoma. There's a whole crowd of them there. They've probably got about 15 people here to watch his major league debut, and happy to see that base hit.
Boy, how thrilled they must be. And we'll hear from them the next half inning about making this trip to watch their son here in Cincinnati. So 4 straight Pirates have reached base. A walk, a hit batter, a couple of singles to give the Pirates a 2-1 lead. And it's 0-1 on Andrew McCutcheon, who had a hit taken away on a diving play by Rowland, leading off the game. Oh, and 2.
Well, we talked about all the extra inning games the Reds have had, 3 in the last 6 days, and they have a need for their starting pitcher to go deep today. First game of a doubleheader this afternoon. So with 48 pitches already, only in the top of the 2nd inning, Dusty Baker would love to see his pitcher become a little more efficient.
Shallow right center field, a tough play, but Stubbs will get there, and that'll end the inning. But not before the Pirates score twice, including the first big league hit for Daniel McCutchen. Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. For a dealer near you, visit buyatoyota.com. By JTM, food, family fun, JTM. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. And by Jeep. The Jeep summer clearance is here. Get to your Jeep dealer today for some of the best deals of the season. Just a beautiful Monday afternoon in Cincinnati. And a major league debut for Daniel McCutchen. He gave up a home run to the very first batter he faced, Drew Stubbs, and retired the next three. And then gave his team the lead with a 2-out run scoring single in the second. 2-1 game. His mom Tammy, his dad Tim in the stands today. And we've already seen them applauding his base hit to knock in a run a moment ago. Johnny Gomes looks at a strike. Johnny at 281, and that one ripped foul. I'm not sure if that ball hit the ball boy's glove, then hit him in the helmet, or whether trying to make the catch, it just fell off. Hopefully he's all right.
That ball was smoked. Maybe it was a combination ball and helmet and glove all at the same time. He looks to be okay.
I hope so. A lot of top spin on that line drive.
He's tying,
get out of the way.
Tying the laces of that glove a little tighter out there a little bit now.
One away in the inning, and let's check in downstairs with Jim Day. Jimbo.
Tom, thank you very much. There's nothing like a major league debut, especially if you're a parent. We're with Tim and Tammy here, mom and dad, and Pops, I got to talk to you first. So many trips to the backyard to maybe throw, to take him to practice. Years and years you dream of this. You're sitting here watching him pitch in a major league big game. How do you feel?
There's no words to describe. It's just taking in the whole experience.
When did you find out? How did you find out? Take us back to that.
I was in church, and a young man came and handed me a piece of paper and said, Daniel wants to talk to you. He has news.
Did you have a hunch right at then?
I did, and so I went out and called him, and he told me.
That's awesome. Now, you had one day to get here, right? You've got a bunch of people. It's a ground ball to third base. That should be an easy out. Had a lot of people to get here in one day, but you got it done.
Yeah, we just started working like crazy, and we got in our with was close enough we could drive, so we all got together and drove. Some people flew, friends flew, but we drove with our family and drove all night last night, and we're here.
Drove all night to get here. All right, Mom, how are you feeling right now?
Great. It's awesome.
How many years have you dreamed about this day?
Ever since he was a little boy, watching them out in the field, they were playing. He says, please, can I play baseball? Can I please? And we go, yeah.
And it's paid off. Now, we were sitting here during this last inning. His first at-bat, his first major league hit, and an RBI. You said I taught him everything he knows.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hand-eye coordination.
So you taught him to hit, and maybe Dad taught him to pitch.
Yeah, he threw more balls with him. I did the cooking.
Well, your reaction was priceless as well. And, Dad, I got to ask you, this is a story to tell for a long time. Not only the way he started the game with that first at-bat.
Yeah, it's awesome. I wasn't expecting that, to tell the truth. But he made me proud.
Gave up a home run in his first at-bat. What were your feelings then? And now after he settled in and then got that first hit, as a Pops, I can see your smile right now. It's ear to ear.
Well, it was Drew Stubbs, which is a friend of Daniel's, and they played college ball together. So if someone's going to hit it out, I was glad it was Drew. But I think that got everything out of the way, and he's ready to pitch now.
Now, you said he was hanging his curveball. Obviously, you have caught many balls from your son.
Several. I quit a long time ago, though. Started throwing too hard for me.
All right, Tom and Chris, doesn't get any better than this. Nope. Mom and Dad watching on, years and years of working to get to the major leagues, and here he is, and boy, he's putting on a show right now.
Well, you find out in church, that is divine intervention indeed. It's great stuff. His mom and dad are so proud and so happy and so excited, and so nervous.
More so than the pitcher himself. At least he can do something about it. Go out and throw the ball, decide what to throw, where to put it, and so on. They're helpless in the stands. And, of course, they are situated right behind the dugout in the first row of the visitors' dugout. As he comes down the steps every time, can't miss Mom and Dad in the stands right there. So that's got to be a real feel-good for Daniel McCutcheon.
That's a long way from home for your mom and dad when you made your major league debut in San Diego.
Yeah, they weren't able to be there personally, but in fact, they weren't able even to find it on television or even on radio. But got a phone call from you after the end of the ball game.
And back in those days, you weren't using cell phones.
You're right.
Did you get that call in the hotel or your apartment or?
I was dialing 8 from the hotel.
What's that?
I was dialing 8 from the hotel.
Very nice.
Remember the old days you had to dial 8 before you got a long distance line?
Oh, yeah.
And then it was only about $7 a minute.
2-1 game. Out in left center field, if a Reds player hits the Tundra sign in left center or the one in right center during our game, Mike Leone from Cincinnati will win that Tundra. Register for your chance to win during an upcoming game at your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. Good luck, Mike. Daniel McCutcheon making his major league debut. Allowed a home run, the very first batter of his major league career, but has only allowed one base runner since, and he has an RBI single to break a 1-1 tie. So here we go into third with the Pirates leading 2-1 in game one of this day-night doubleheader. .49 pitches through the front 2 innings for Kip Wells. And pitch number 50, a strike to Delwyn Young. Pirates come in having lost 3 in a row in Milwaukee over the weekend, and that coming on the heels of winning 7 out of 9, including 2 out of 3 over the Reds last weekend. A liner right at Joey Votto, 1 away.
He'd like to have a lot more early count outs, as would Dick Pole and Dusty Baker out of Kip Wells. You know, the biggest difference is we saw Bronson Arroyo throw yesterday, and he's been on some kind of a roll. But the biggest difference for Arroyo, if you really look inside the numbers from last year to this year and the years previous, the fact that he has cut his average number of pitches down from about 17.5 pitches per inning to 15.5 pitches per inning. Now those 2 pitches per inning, when you start adding up all the innings that you have, not only in one ball game, it may give you an extra inning to stay out there and get a decision, but over the course of a season, it really saves wear and tear on your arm. And for every extra inning you can give as a starter, of course, obviously you save the bullpen.
Well, I mean, you do the most simple of math.
Yeah.
You know, for a guy, say you throw 200 innings, well, all of a sudden you're talking about multiplying that by 2. Okay, that's 400 pitches. 400 pitches is the equivalent in this day and age, really, of 4 starts.
Yeah.
For a lot of guys. Arroyo very good against yesterday. Boy, how good was Clayton Kershaw? Boy, oh, that guy has got a chance to be an outstanding pitcher.
Well, just that, you know, we reviewed it yesterday, but the talent that was taken in that 2006 draft, where Kershaw was taken and Drew Stubbs was taken, Evan Longoria was taken, Lincecum was taken. 8 out of the top 10 picks in that draft have all made it to the major leagues. The Pirates in that particular draft took a young man named Brad Lincoln, who is in their minor leagues now. The scouts will tell you that he's one of the best around, and he'll be a top of the rotation type starter when he does finally make it to the major leagues.
I mean, nothing against Drew Stubbs. He may turn out to be a great player, but I know every Reds fan they cringe when they look at that number 10 pick.
Remember that number 10 pick, I think, coming out of college was 5'11" and about 160 pounds. And there was a lot of people around baseball, not just the Reds, who thought that Tim Lincecum was simply too small and would not be able to sustain, you know, the physical aspect of the major league game. Of course, he's proved everybody wrong in that. Back when the Cubs drafted him coming out of high school, Lincecum was 5'9", 135 pounds. Now, you have to go out on a limb to draft a kid that small.
You're right about that.
You have to really believe in what he was doing, and he's made believers out of everybody.
And I read somewhere about a year ago, as it's 0-2 to Andy LaRoche, that the only pitcher that's in the Baseball Hall of Fame that is under 6 feet tall is Whitey Ford. I read that somewhere, and of course you'd have to do a lot of digging around. Now, Pedro Martinez will be a guy that goes to the Hall of Fame who's not 6 feet. Tim Hudson has a legitimate chance, if he were to stay healthy and win some more ball games, of getting to the Hall of Fame, being under 6 feet tall. Now, Billy Wagner, I'm not sure if he's 6 feet tall. Right around there.
Yeah.
But again, those guys aren't there. They're not eligible to be there yet. And that might have something to do. There might have been a footnote to that wasn't clarified about, you know, maybe in the more modern era, because I got to believe some of those guys going way back were less than 6 feet tall.
Well, I imagine that there are a lot of scouting directors out there that direct their scouts. If you get a guy that small, forget about it. Don't put him on the list. Although I can tell you, tall pitchers have a lot more problems trying to control their mechanics than do smaller pitchers, just because their arms and legs are longer. And you get out of whack just a little bit when you're 6 feet 10 inches tall. I mean, Randy Johnson will tell you the same thing. He's preached that forever, that it took him longer than the average young pitcher because he battled his height. Of course, when he finally conquered it and figured it all out, he was just about unhittable.
2-2 on Andy LaRoche. Runner at second. Pirates leading by a run with 1 out, and it's fouled back out of play. To the left of Rosales, a runner will advance, but there are 2 away in the inning. And by the way, you know, to finish that thought about pitchers and not being 6 feet or being under 6 feet, for all the young guys out there that have a dream about being a major league pitcher, that's not some golden rule that you can't be 6 feet or under and being a major league pitcher. We just talked about Tim Lincecum. All he is a reigning Cy Young Award winner. So don't feel like you got to be 6'2" and weigh 210 pounds to realize a dream.
Well, you do with what you have, and look at Daniel Ray Herrera.
Yep.
I mean, Shaq doesn't believe he's 5 feet 6 inches tall, but say he is that tall. I mean, he's done a whole lot for the Reds this year. I imagine he's going to be pitching in the major leagues for quite a while. That's not an inspiration. I don't think anything is.
You're right about that. 2 away for Brandon Moss.
Sometimes it's the size of your heart and not your height.
Talked about Pedro. He's been pretty good for a long time. Boy, that guy's numbers. You talk about looking at guys' numbers that are sick.
You're right, but the Dodgers thought he was too small, and that's why they eventually dealt him off to Montreal, because they didn't think that he could withstand the rigors of being a starting pitcher.
That ball clobbered into left center field, but room out there for Stubbs at the track, and the inning is over. So 1 man left. We're in the middle of the 3rd, and the Pirates have a 1-run lead. Championship. Can they compete for another title? Go inside Bearcats football Tuesday at 10 on Fox Sports Ohio. Presented by your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Honda dealers. Of course, the Bearcats will open play in conference at Rutgers. That'll be a week from tonight, I believe, on Labor Day. Well, that'll be a big game right out of the chute for Brian Kelly and the Bearcats. But they have Big East Offensive Preseason Player of the Year, Reading High alum Tony Pike again at quarterback. And Marty Gilliard his favorite target. Brand new defense, but boy, they are loaded up on offense.
It's an exciting style of offense they play.
Indeed. That'll be fun to watch. After reaching a BCS game for the first time in school history last year, big expectations here in 09. Well, I saw you at a game last year.
I was.
Didn't I see you at the South Florida game?
Yes, you did.
That was a drilling.
It was a drilling. I didn't
Aren't you a
expect it
South
to be.
Florida alum?
I am. Moving for better things out of the Bulls this year.
Strike three call to Kip Wells. 2 strikeouts for Daniel McCutcheon, who makes his big league debut today.
Hey, Reds fans, for a great tasting meal and an unbeatable value, pick up delicious JTM Philly kits, burgers, or delicious hoagies at your favorite grocer. JTM Food, family fun.
Well, Drew Stubbs, a batter. He led off the game with a home run to left field. And you heard Daniel McCutcheon's mom and dad talk about how these two have known each other for a long time. Played collegiate baseball against one another.
I'm wondering if they played collegiate baseball against each other, and I'm wondering if they also may have played in the Cape Cod League together. McCutcheon, when he was in that Cape Cod League, he was one of the top pitchers in the league, led his team in strikeouts. Of course, Drew Stubbs is pretty much a star everywhere he's played in amateur baseball.
That one blasted into left field, a base hit by Stubbs.
Second time in a couple of at-bats that he's got a hanging breaking ball. I think that's what Daniel McCutcheon's father, Tim, was referring to about the Drew Stubbs home run in the first inning. He also got that breaking ball up right there. So Stubbs now 2 for 2 on the hanging hook.
In the dirt, and Stubbs stays put. Now, Chris, looking at UC's football schedule this year, they go to your alma mater on October the 15th. And that is a 7:30 game. Now, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I got to believe
that's a middle of the week game.
Yeah, that's probably a Thursday night game. So you may have to make a trip down to South Florida for that game.
Well, you know, I looked at that week. Tom, I think golf will have to reign supreme that week. In fact, your father and I, along with a number of the other guys, I think Jim Day and Jeff Pecoro, we're going to recruit a couple of others. We're heading down for a few days of golf in Maggie Valley, North Carolina.
Indeedy.
So we'll have to catch that game on the tube.
All right.
Probably over at the Legends Sports Grill, where they're all watching us today down in Maggie Valley. You got to make it down there sometime.
Believe me, I want to go badly. Stubbs running, pitch taken, throw down to second is too high, and Stubbs, who had 46 steals at Louisville this year, is a perfect 3 for 3 in the major league.
He's making it look pretty easy out there as far as stolen bases go. If you read the pitcher right, and if the pitcher doesn't use much of a slide step, and that is not a slide step by McCutcheon there, long strides and long legs from Stubbs. Well, he's got the kind of running gait, very smooth, just a kind of a gliding running gait. He gets a good secondary lead off second base. Third base coaches love that.
Well, he's just got an unbelievable body for a baseball player. He's tall, wiry, strong, but you can just tell by watching him walk around in street clothes that he can run really fast. He just has a look that very few do.
He's got kind of the Chris Collinsworth look.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a very good analogy. Foul out of play. 2-2 on Drew Sutton. Tying run as Drew Stubbs out there at second base with one away here in the third. We'll do it again. Well, you talked about Chris Collinsworth. If I'm not mistaken, didn't his son's team, Highlands, just beat up on Ryle the other night?
They did indeed. His son is, you know what? They're pretty good players. I'm not sure where his son is committed to go.
Yeah, I don't think he's committed yet.
Is that right? He's a good player. Plays both sides of the ball, like a lot of those guys from Highlands.
They got a great football program over there.
Do they ever?
Fort Thomas, Kentucky. And there's a base hit into center field. They are going to wave around the runner. Here comes the throw. It sails high and wide. And Sutton with a game-tying base hit advances on to second.
Well, Drew Sutton trying to make the best of his occasional playing time. Gets a pitch right here that he's able just to get enough on it. Got it in on a little bit. Not all that hard hit, but a solid enough base hit to center field to give 2 or 3 hops before the outfielder McCutcheon gets to it, and he can't get the ball there in time to get the very speedy Drew Stubbs. So a couple of Drews at the top of the inning here have gotten it going for the Reds. Just the way Dusty drew it up. Not too early for that bad one.
Never. Never. Votto rolls over one down to the first baseman Jones. He'll feed McCutcheon, who finds a bag for out number 2, and Sutton on the third.
Of course, there was a lot of high school football being played this last weekend.
All right, here we go. This time a year ago, you didn't want to talk about it. I was only waiting. It was a matter of time. You made it till the third inning.
Remember, of course, they had the big football challenge. What was that called over there at Nippert Stadium, where they had 2 days of high school football doubleheaders? It was a great weekend for high school football. Of course, the number 7 team in the country, Coleraine, upset by St. X. Now Colerane's got to go play Elder at the Pit.
Yeah,
this Friday, and that
got to give it up to Coleraine playing those teams out of league.
Yeah,
there's a base hit into right field by Rowland. Scoring is Sutton, and the Reds back on top for the second time today. It's a 3-2 game.
Boy, Scotty Rowland makes a difference in this lineup. I mean, he just makes a difference with the way the lineup looks when he's in it, with the way the guys play when he is active and on the team. I think that's exactly what the Reds wanted when they went out and traded. I mean, they traded some pretty good arms to get Scott Rowland, and some people question that trade, but for my money, this team has to learn how to win and learn how to prepare to play baseball games, and I don't think anybody does it better than Rowland. They could use 2 or 3 guys like that.
Well, you and I were talking during that Milwaukee series. I mean, he almost single-handedly, for a guy who's not known for his speed, he almost single-handedly won 2 of those games for the Reds with his base running.
Yeah. That's kind of the way that Albert Pujols does that over in St. Louis. He's not the fastest base runner around, but he might be one of the best base runners as far as taking advantage of situations. Rowland tried to do the same thing yesterday, tried to advance on a ball that got away from the catcher. Russell Martin made a great play and threw him out, but he's trying to make that play instead of, you know, hanging near the bag and playing conservative. Always looking for the edge.
And there you see, nothing wrong with those numbers for a guy who may not have been blessed with a great amount of speed, but picks his spots, and that's a good percentage, 72%. 1-2 to Johnny Gomes. Johnny struck out looking his first time up. 3 runs, 4 hits for the Reds, 2 runs, 2 hits for the Pirates. Don't forget, we can double your fun today. Game 2 of this day-night doubleheader tonight at 7 o'clock. Right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Johnny Cueto back in the Reds rotation. And he'll be opposed by left-hander Paul Mahalan. Tickets are available, by the way, so if you want to pop on down to the ballpark tonight, we'll look forward to having you. Hit hard down to third, and the force out will end the inning. But the Reds get a couple of runs on 3 hits. They leave a man. We go to the 4th. Reds in front, 3-2. Fantasy football with more features, new ways to play. Log on to foxsports.com on MSN and join the next generation of fantasy football. I got to tell you, I saw a demonstration of what they are doing with fantasy football at Fox a couple of weeks ago. And you owe it to yourself, if you are a fantasy football league fan, to check it out. Because you can get in season-long leagues. You can get in one-day leagues. You line up your team the day of any given week and just play for the one day. I mean, I'm told by guys who were there with us checking out this new Fox Fantasy Football that guys that play it know all about it. And they were very, very excited about it. So check it out. Lastings Millage leading off against Kip Wells. Wells spotted for the second time today to a 1-run lead. Had a 1-0 lead at the end of 1. Gave up 2 in the second. And the Reds get 2 in the third and lead 3-2. Lastings Millage started that 2-out rally when he drew a walk in the second inning and later scored. Wells retired the first 2 batters in that inning. Walked Millage, hit Cedeno, allowed an RBI single to Jaramillo, and then the pitcher McCutchen with a run-scoring single. Three and 2 now on Lastings Millage. Payoff pitch coming to Millage. And after getting ahead 0-2, he walks it. Wow. And you talked about Millage. He hadn't even walked a handful of times all year.
He's almost impossible to walk, and that's the thing that's so disturbing about that particular bat. Even the one in the back in the second inning when he walked him with 2 outs, that started the rally where the Pirates ended up getting a couple of runs. I mean, there are certain guys in the lineup that you just have to go after, and then if you make close enough pitches, they'll chase. But for Millage to reach base both times in this ball game via the walk, that's an oddity, to say the least. Now you've got some speed on the base paths.
Ronnie Cedeno hit by that pitch on the left hip from Wells in the second inning and later scored. 71 pitches in the game for Wells, and we're only one batter into the 4th inning. We talked about the Reds having played 5 extra inning games over the last 12. The bullpen has been used so frequently. The Dusty Baker and Dick Pohl as pitching coach, they're behind the 8 ball, so they're leaning hard on Wells here today. And you really don't know what you're going to get out of Johnny Cueto in game 2.
No, you really don't. I mean, you got to figure that there's going to be some kind of a very conservative pitch count. I wouldn't imagine they would go over 90 to 100 pitches to Cueto. Not that they would normally anyway, but you take him off the disabled list. He's been throwing regularly. I mean, he really wasn't all that bothered with shoulder pain. I think there was more arm fatigue, and they just wanted to skip him a couple of times to see if he could bounce back physically. But he just looked like he was physically worn out his last few times out there. So it ought to be better for Cueto, but still, unless he's very efficient with his pitches, you're going to have to cover some innings with your bullpen there. And the way that Wells is pitching, it appears you're going to have to cover some innings here too. Just about even balls and strikes. You expect a little better out of Wells.
Two and oh the count on Ronnie Cedeno. There's a strike. Cedeno back in the lineup yesterday. He had missed 7 straight starts due to a fractured tip of his right little finger. A very similar injury that hit Brandon Phillips earlier this season. He missed, what, 5 games and has been back in there by and large every day since.
Except Brandon Phillips, I think, was on the thumb. Cedeno had on the pinky finger.
3-1 on Ronnie Cedeno. Short lead over there by Millage. Wells a pause in the pitch, and he has walked Cedeno. Wow. Well, the National League wildcard race has certainly gotten more than just a little bit interesting after what took place over the weekend in the Bay Area. The Giants swept Colorado 3 in a row to move into a tie for the wildcard lead. And look at Atlanta, along with the Marlins, 3.5 back.
Along with the Chicago Cubs, and as bad as they have been, they're only 5.5 games back. The problem, though, is that they've got 4 teams ahead of them.
Yeah.
And that's tough to start the leapfrog when you get into the last month of the season. They're going to have to put on some kind of a rush. Milwaukee's been struggling. At least they were struggling when the Reds were in town, but they have just finished off a sweep of the Pirates this last weekend, so they feel like they've got a little renewal going on, but they, again, have 5 teams in front of them.
But ultimately, now, we have not seen the Marlins since the first week of May. Seen Colorado a 3-game series here. The Reds went 3-3 against the Giants. They won't play them anymore. The Reds will see Atlanta after this series coming up this coming weekend. Of all those teams, and obviously we've seen the Cubs a lot. Here's a pitch, and it's strike 1 to Jaramillo.
Well, on this next road
Who do you like? Who do you like?
Well, on the next road trip, you're going to see all 3 of the teams that you're talking about.
Yeah. Who do you like? One team stand out for you more than another right now?
Well, I think Colorado is the team that stands out, but I think that they have been so good a few weeks ago that they may have had their run already.
Double play ball here. There's one, and that's a much needed double play for Kip Wells.
And I'm not writing off the Rockies by any means. Just because they got hot doesn't mean that they can't get hot again. They've got good pitching. They need Aaron Cook back, obviously. But the pitching that the Giants have going down the stretch, tough to ignore that.
And they're talking about maybe getting Randy Johnson back.
And put him in the bullpen. And I think that that's why I would have to give the Giants the edge.
So a runner at third, that is a tying run, and here's a pitcher, McCutchen, who knocked in a run with a single to right, his first major league at bat. You know, you talk about pitching, though. And I tell you, I don't know whose pitching is much better than the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta, the 4th best ERA in the league. The Giants, 2nd best. And, of course, Atlanta gets Tim Hudson back tonight.
Yes.
All the way back from Tommy John surgery, and he'll make his 2009 debut tonight. 1-1 on McCutchen. That looked like a pretty good pitch from here. Two and one the count with a tying run at 3rd and 2 away. Count even up. Now, the last time up, they threw that fastball away from McCutchen, and he hit it the other way to drive in a run. See what they do here on 2 and 2. And set up right down the middle of the plate. And a roller to second. A nice job by Wells after a couple of walks to start the inning. Gets a double play ball and a ground out to end the inning and preserve this 3-2 lead. Aflac trivia question. Who is the only player in Major League Baseball history with 100 or more home runs as a Red and a Pirate? Well, the first name that comes to mind is the guy that you were talking about earlier that you saw last weekend in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati native.
Yeah, we had him in the booth.
Parker.
Had him in the booth. They brought back the 1979 Pirates, the world champions, and of course Dave Parker was part of that crew. Did he have 100 home runs as a Red is the question.
Well, I know one thing. He had a couple of great years here. One of those years he could have been the league MVP.
Yes, he could have.
Well, what a player he was. Well, you know, I saw where he was, talking about his numbers and his career and stacked up against some of those guys in recent years that have gone into the Hall of Fame. And I think there's a legitimate argument there that Dave Parker could be voted into baseball's Hall of Fame.
Well, Phil Garner we had on also, and he had an interesting take on a number of players that we brought up names about Hall of Fame eligibility, and rather than look at the overall numbers, his point was, was he one of the dominant players in his era? And I'd have to say yes to Dave Parker on that. I mean, he was intimidating. He hit for power. He hit for average. He could steal bases. He was a very good outfielder.
Phenomenal arm. Well, Well, you have it there in front of you on a computer. I mean, just for some of the fans who, aren't familiar with some of the precise numbers, is there's strike 3 to Valentine. Home runs, RBIs for Dave Parker are what?
Overall, he's a 290 hitter lifetime.
Wow, that's a good number.
Yeah. Played about 18 years in the major leagues. We'll take another look first at the little split finger changeup that Daniel McCutcheon uses as an off-speed pitch. Inquired about that before the ball game, and you see the good depth it has. When he stays on top of it or roll right up there, he gets a strikeout looking from Vladimir Valentine.
Rosales a bleeder into right, caught by Moss, 2 away.
That's become more and more of a favorite pitch. I mean, you go to a changeup, and first thing you do as a minor leaguer and an amateur player is you try and learn the circle change, where you put it back in your palm and you make a circle changeup. And Homer Bailey tried that and never really could get the feel of it. This year, down in the bullpen, he was sitting along with Justin Lear, another Red starter who was down there in AAA at the time, and they started experimenting with grips, and one thing leads to another. Before you know it, you're splitting your finger apart, your middle finger and your forefinger, and all of a sudden you got a little split finger on your hands. And he's worked that, and it's been a very good pitch for him. Doesn't overuse it. In fact, his last start he was very stingy with it, but when he did need it, it's a real good strikeout pitch to a left-hander. Back to Dave Parker, the 290 hitter. He hit 339 home runs. Runs batted in 1,493, so nearly 1,500 runs batted in. Overall, played about 2,466 games. So, and he played in the postseason, obviously. He played 74, 75, 79, 88, 89. In the last 4 of those years, he was with the Oakland A's in 88 and 89.
Oh, played about, what, 7 or 8 All-Star games, something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, he had a great career.
I'm the kind of guy that you got to put him in. There are a lot of guys out there, I think, that deserve inclusion. I mean, he's a very large baseball player. You remember when he broke his jaw?
Oh, yeah.
And he had that almost football player helmet that he'd wear to the plate. And he'd come roaring around third base with that thing on and a little bit of armor. There wasn't a catcher around that wanted to be anywhere close to home and risk that collision. 6'5", 250, he ran like a deer.
You think about guys from Cincinnati, and you always play the game about all the major leaguers that are from this city. I don't know if any city in America that could run out a starting outfield that would be better than 3 guys from Cincinnati. And there are others you could probably throw into the mix. But if you play Pete Rose in left, Ken Griffey Jr. in center, and Dave Parker in right, there can't be a city in America that has better than that.
That's a pretty good start.
Well, we started talking about Dave Parker because we believe he's the answer to our Aflac trivia question. Of course, now all of us talk about him, and it's not him.
Aflac!
It is him. Seven All-Star games, 3 Gold Glove awards.
And he can fry up some chicken, too.
Oh, yeah.
Been out to any of his Popeyes?
Yes. Been a while, though.
That'd be maybe a good idea between game snacks for us.
Well, Dave might be watching right now.
Wouldn't doubt it. Buddy Bell told me a story. He played Buddy Bell, of course, went to Moeller High School, and Dave Parker went to Quarter Tech. And just about the same time. And back in the day when Parker was a high school player, Buddy Bell was a second baseman for Moeller High School, Parker was a pitcher. They said he stood on the mound, and he had a great arm.
Oh, yeah.
6'5", as a high schooler, about 230. A little intimidating, a little wild. No one really wanted to get in the batter's box against Parkway back then.
No.
And even Buddy Bell said, the most intimidating pitcher I ever faced, Dave Parker, was in high school. And he faced a lot of them along the way.
Quarter Tech no longer around. It was once on the grounds that now houses Cincinnati State University. And he was also an outstanding football player, we're told. Halfback and a linebacker. And was also the kicker. And that year we were talking about with the Reds that he had in 1985. Hit .312 with 34 home runs and 125 runs batted in.
Wow.
Two and two on Wells after a 2-out walk to Tatum. Reds in front 3-2. We're in the 4th inning. And an swing foul ball. Think about that outfield. Rose, Griffey Jr., Dave Parker. Oh. What an outfield that is. All-time hits leader. Were it not for injury, perhaps the game's all-time home run leader. And a guy who knocked in almost 1,500 runs and almost 400 homers in right. What, he won 3. Junior won about, what, 10, 11 Gold Gloves?
Yeah, 11, I think.
Yeah. Man.
Was an all-star just about every year.
I mean, that is as big league and outfield as you're going to get. From Cincinnati, Ohio, all 3 of them. Then you start your infield with Larkin at short and Buddy Bell at 3rd. You go Ronnie Oster to 2nd, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody.
Leon Durham maybe at first base.
Yeah, maybe. And there's some other guys. I'm sure that just off the top of our head that we might be forgetting about. I have no doubt about that. Kevin Youkilis, he's in that mix.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be an interesting little task for an intern to do kind of a city by city historical all-star team.
Roller down to 3rd. Well, you don't have anything to do all winter. What you got to do? You go to the 5th.
I've been promoted to intern.
You
Rewind. AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, your world delivered.
So a 3-2 ball game. Well, that looks like fun. Well, I wish our director Christian Roberts, our producer Doug Johnson, would not have put that shot up. My son's home from school. And that's all he'll be bugging his mom about the rest of the day. Why can't we go ride one of those? And of course, as I always look at his mom, the question is not why. The question is, why not? You've been on those, and you've spent a lot of time down in Florida. You lived down there for a while.
I have been.
Yeah, you've been on those times. I can see you out there cruising around.
Yeah, but you know, they're wonderful. They're a lot of entertainment. But if you sneak up to your special fishing spot and you've worked your way into the mangroves and you're just ready to make a couple casts, and all of a sudden ripping around the corner is a half a dozen of those ski-doos.
So you're a little south on those guys.
You know.
A little.
They're good for certain things. Okay. I think for what you've got there, that's a pretty impressive armada.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the whole Brenneman family out there?
No, I think that's actually the Navy of the Commonwealth over there.
There you go.
That is not a shot. Hey, by the way, you know, I got a nasty letter from a guy. There's a breaking ball in their strike. I mean, really nasty. You know, terrible language, which that's his decision. But, you know, he got on me for something that you said. And you're a guy that lives in a Commonwealth. And he beat me up for saying it. I didn't even say it.
What did I say?
You and I were kidding around one night. We were talking about the Ohio lottery. That was up to like 200, and of course, just recently it's up over 300 million. But it was around about, I don't know, 200 million at the time. And I had said to you, Chris, you could take all that money and take it back over into the Commonwealth. And you jokingly said, I might be able to buy the Commonwealth for that kind of money.
I think you said that.
I don't think so, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't me. And then the guy writes me, and he calls me every name in the book.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
That's too bad.
It was too bad.
Especially since he's a judge.
Well, I hope his language is better for those in front of him. 3-1 the count to Andrew McCutcheon. I don't think he liked me very much, but that's the way it goes. McCutcheon to be followed by Delwyn Young and then Garrett Jones. Here in the Pirates' 5th inning, game 1 of a day-night doubleheader today at Great American Ballpark. And there's a strike, 3-2 on McCutcheon, who's bounced to third and popped out to center field.
Well, when you respond, make your first 2 words, Your Honor. You'd be off to a good start. But don't blame me for that comment.
I think you're the one that said it. We'll have to check the tape. And it was all in fun as a point anyway.
Absolutely.
There's a fly ball into right field. 1 away.
I'm not sure what the record this year is for pitchers who have gone to a full count. I gotta think off the top of my head that Kip Wells might be closing in on it. What if we could ask our guy Daddy Wags to contact Stats LLC and find out if there's a way to have that looked up.
Wells has only allowed 2 hits. He's gotten himself into trouble with walks and or hit batter. With 2 out and nobody on in the 2nd inning, he hit Millage, or walked Millage, and hit Cedeno, and allowed the only 2 hits consecutively to Jaramillo and McCutcheon, producing runs. Ran into 2-out trouble in the 4th inning. Couple of walks, but got a double play and a ground out. Delwyn Young, a swing and a miss, and it's 0-2. So here Wells is 91 pitches in the game, and we're only 1 out into the 5th inning.
Effectively wild.
And 2 on Young with Jones to follow. And even though he has not been pitch efficient up to this point in the game, the bottom line is he still only allowed the 2 runs. But you know that Dusty Baker is hoping he finds more pitch efficiency pretty much here and now, knowing the state of the bullpen and all the use they've had recently. And after getting ahead 0-2, he's now gone to 2-2.
I think the other thing, Tom, is that when you're in a 1-run ball game, you put a runner on base and you're swinging the bat from being, 1 run up to being 1 run down. And that's where those base runners can come back to haunt you.
Lined hard into right, but Gomes is there, 2 away. We invite you to join the official kids club of the Cincinnati Reds, the Reds Heads Kids Club, at your local Bob Evans restaurant. All members can get the chance to be a participant in the Bob Evans Reds Heads Run On before a Sunday Reds game and receive an autograph from one of your favorite Reds players. Log on to reds.com/kids club if you'd like to do it via the internet. It's a great program. Ball 1 to Garrett Jones, who has popped up to Drew Sutton, drawn a walk, stolen a base. We were talking about Ken Griffey Jr. a little while ago. Hard to believe it was this date, August the 31st, 1990. that Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. became the first father-son duo to play as teammates 20 baseball seasons ago. Season check-in session stands throughout the ballpark for the Kroger meal deal. You get a full-size adult hot dog, a 16-ounce Coke, and during this homestand a bag of Lay's kettle chips, all for just $7. So when they tell you got to spend $100 on a family for 4 to come down to a ball game, that's nonsense. The Kroger meal deal. Top of the order for the Reds against Daniel McCutchen, who makes his major league debut today. Reds in front 3-2, and Stubbs a big reason why. A leadoff home run in the first inning, the first this year hit by a Red. And then he had a one-out single, stole a base, and scored on a single by Sutton in the third inning. slider away. 1-2 strikes. Sutton gone on strikes. That's number 3 of the day for Mr. McCutchen. Number 4, I beg your pardon. Well, tonight's Mega $1 Million jackpot is $12 million. So buy a ticket today. I must not have paid attention. Somebody must have won that $300, $400 million jackpot. 2 winners.
2 people.
Well, they tell me both winners were from out of state. Here's a slow roller to short. Nice play by Cedeno. 2 away in the inning.
Yeah, Ronnie Cedeno, always a very active shortstop. Pretty good defensively right there. And he comes in to make a running grab of an easy ground ball. And McCutchen very quickly, 2/3 of the way through this 5th inning. He's been a mite more efficient with his pitches. 81 overall for McCutchen. But in this ball game, home plate umpire Sam Holbrook has had a lot of pitches to look at already. You're only about halfway through.
A quiet day so far for Joey Votto. He lined out to center field in the 1st inning and tapped out to Garrett Jones at first in the 3rd. Rolled over foul. 2-1 to Joey Votto. Haven't heard much about any deals in Major League Baseball. Of course, if you want to get somebody from another organization, if you're a contending team and have that player available for your postseason roster, you've got to get him before the 1st of September. That ball popped up and caught by Cedeno, so it is a perfect fit for Daniel McCutchen. The first of his Major League career. And to 5, Reds lead by a run. Faded down for this makeup game, a game that was rained out the 4th game of the year. So the Reds playing against the Pirates in a day-night doubleheader. The pickings were pretty slim for Kiss Cam in between innings.
Well, they gave the couples that were selected a little longer to share a kiss.
Indeed. Kip Wells to face Andy LaRoche, Brandon Moss, and then Lastings Millich here in the 6th. Wells has only allowed 2 hits. They came consecutively to knock in runs in the 2nd inning. Well, the Reds came back from that 2-1 deficit, scoring twice in the third. So a 3-2 game as we open up the sixth.
You're talking about player moves, Tom, of certain magnitude. Obviously, there's some contenders that would still like to make additions and changes to their roster. Have to do it by the deadline today in order to make those players eligible for the postseason. Rich Harden is a name that has been bandied about a lot going from the Cubs to the Twins. You think that they may pull the trigger and be able to make that move? GM Bill Smith of the Twins probably considers that the Tigers are catchable and Harden may help them.
Well, they might be a couple weeks late. The Tigers have been catchable for quite some time here, while the Twins have kind of floated around at 500, couple of games under, couple of games over. But as you mentioned, still only 4.5 back. Although Harden has been a major disappointment really since coming to the Cubs. Now, that was a big deal. You may remember they made last season. And what's he won, 8 games this year? Strike 3 called. Second strikeout of the day for Kip Wells.
Nice pitch against the cleanup hitter for the Pirates. A little sinking fastball makes its way to the inner corner. LaRoche does not, either doesn't like the call or doesn't like himself for letting that ball go by.
Well, Harden, by the way, you mentioned his name. He is scheduled to start tonight for the Cubs at Wrigley Field against Roy Oswalt and the Astros. So if that's a deal, it's going to happen. They better get after it right quick. Want to know to Brandon Moss. Good breaking ball there by Wells on the inside edge of strike. Atlanta and Florida open a very important series tonight. Those two teams are tied in the wild card race. We showed you a little bit earlier, brought to you by Honda. 3.5 back of the co-leaders Colorado and San Francisco. So the Braves and the Marlins go at it later tonight. And apparently word coming out, Chris, just now you brought up Rich Harden. As there's ball 2 up and away, along with Aaron Heilman, Cub reliever.
Yeah.
Heilman, you may remember, claimed by the San Francisco Giants, but both Harden and Heilman will stay with the Cubs. Apparently the teams involved were not able to work out deals over the 72-hour period, which is allowed after a team puts in a claim on a player. We'll see. There's a ground ball to the right side. 2 gone. Well, he's pitching a good game here today. I mean, he struggled with command. There's no debate about that. But the bottom line is, here we are with 1 out to go and 6 full innings.
I think he's been a little better after the 4th inning. That's when he walked the first 2 batters of the inning and then got a ground ball double play that retired the pitcher McCutchen. And probably got a talking to again by Dick Pohl, saying, hey, you know what, we don't have a lot left in the bullpen out here. You need to start attacking these hitters. And he has since then retired the last 5.
Well, here's a guy that he's walked twice who had all of 5 walks the entire year, and Milledge's not going to wait around for another one. And Kip Wells says thank you. That may have bought him another inning in his game. Reds lead 3-2. Coors Light freeze can. Play early in the game made by Drew Stubbs.
Nice diving catch by Drew Stubbs on a ball that died on him very quickly. A couple of knee divots right there, replaced by his left fielder, Vladimir Valentin. But Drew Stubbs is making a nice defensive work for the Reds in support of his pitcher, Kip Wells. And right now the Reds hold a 3-2 lead.
The Coors Light freeze can brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. Scott Rowland to be followed by Johnny Gomes and then Vladimir Valentin against Daniel McCutchen, who makes his major league debut today. He gave up a leadoff home run to Drew Stubbs in the first inning. A couple of runs, including a tie-breaking single by Rowland in the third. But he too has pitched a nice game in this his major league debut.
You know, you're really never sure what to expect out of a pitcher in his major league debut. You got to think with McCutchen, I mean, he earned his way up here to the major leagues. It's not like he was just brought up here just because he was involved in that trade with the Yankees last year. He won 13 games in AAA, lost only 6, had a nice earned run average in the mid-3s. And he pitches just exactly what our scout report was on him beforehand. Works the ball kind of in and out, not overpowering. Good command. Guy that you would have to think would compete for a spot in this rotation next year.
And you know, Chris, you use that word earned. Seems like in a day and age you get a lot of people. There's his mom and dad here. We heard from them earlier. His mom, Tammy, his father, Tim. You know, in a day and age when a lot of young players come up and they feel like they should be handed things instead of earning things. Justin Lear is a guy for the Reds who has earned his spot in this rotation and trying to earn a legitimate chance to be a part of the Reds rotation in 2010.
Well, those guys with great stuff are always going to get more chances than those guys that do it with command and with guile and with smoke and mirrors. But that's what the minor leagues are for. I mean, after all, if you don't reward a kid for having a great year in the minor leagues by bringing him up, whether it's from A-ball to AA or from AAA to the major leagues, I mean, what's the purpose of having your minor leagues? You do want to send a message to everybody down there that if you work hard enough and you do well, you've got a chance to make the big leagues. That's the idea. Got a pretty good arm too. I mean, he's thrown a few balls today in the mid-90s. I'm not saying he's a cunning thumber by any means, but he's got pretty good command for a guy that throws a fastball this hard.
Gone swinging his Gomes, and they're 2 away in the inning.
Five strikeouts now. Second time he got Johnny Gomes on it. That's a splitter. We showed you before what that splitter looked like, and he goes to that same grip. That time he pulls down with his middle finger and he gets that ball to go away from Gomes, and they like it. Mom and Dad McCutchen coming all the way from Norman, Oklahoma by car to watch their son make his major league debut.
Well, the plane ticket was too expensive to get here, I'm sure, at the last minute. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, even though they've lowered the rates out there at CVG. It's
really?
Yeah. Well, how would you know, Tom? You travel most of the time by private plane, do you?
That's not accurate. No. I'm getting ready to go to California. Our good friends at Empower, though. Great sponsor of Reds baseball. I know all the prices, trust me.
I think you do.
1 and 2 to count.
I'll tell you who Daniel McCutchen reminds me of, but with better stuff, is Justin Lear. He throws the same kind of pitch. He has a very similar type of a delivery, but he has a little bit of a firmer fastball.
That ball hit so hard and it took a bad bounce on Garrett Jones. I'm sure that'll be ruled a hit for Valentin. It is.
Kind of late on the ball, Valentin was, but the ball really jumped off his bat and ate up the first baseman, Garrett Jones. That's one of those balls that gets down on you so fast you're not really sure how to read the bounce.
Well, you were the guy, and I mean, and I certainly applaud you for it, because you were the guy just watching Vladimir Valentin in BP, and you pointed out at the time that, you know, you thought there might be some good things in store for this young man. 100 pitch mark for Daniel McCutchen today. He's allowed 3 runs on only 5 base hits. And he's 1 out away from 6 strong innings. A pitch out. And the catcher Jaramillo will try to get Valentin, but too late.
Now, you always try to sniff something out. Evidently, the Pirates thought the Reds had something on right there. Although Valentin not really a legitimate base stealer, they think maybe with 2 outs, the Reds will take a shot. On the other hand, maybe they think they can just catch that runner at first base napping sometimes. Cardinals love to do that play, especially with a left-hander in the batter's box, where you can hide the whole action of the catcher just a little bit better from the base runner.
In the hole at short, Cedeno will play to first. Man, that's a nice play by Ronnie Cedeno. 1 hit, 1 left. We go to the 7th. Reds lead 3-2. Summary. Very first batter of the game for the Reds. First batter in the career for Daniel McCutchen. Drew Stubbs a home run. First leadoff home run by a Red this year. After a walk and a hit batsman with 2 men out in the Pirates' second. Jaramillo with a base hit to drive in Millage. Then the pitcher McCutchen, his first big league at bat, a run scoring single to make it 2-1. But the Reds in the 3rd with 1 on. A single by Sutton scored Stubbs to tie the game. Sutton went to second on a throw to the plate. And then Drew would score on a base hit by Scott Rowland. So 3 runs, 5 hits for the Reds. They've left 4 men on base. 2 runs, 2 hits for the Bucks. 2 men left. Kip Wells retires the final 8 batters he faces. And now will give way to right-hander Carlos Fisher. Fisher having an outstanding year out of the Reds bullpen, but his ERA blew up to 3.9, down from the low 3.1 area where he was before his outing on Saturday against the Dodgers. Fly ball to right center field, and Stubbs cannot get it. That ball up against the wall, and Cedeno will end up at 3rd base.
Ronnie Cedeno made a great play to end the inning defensively, and he starts this inning off with a bolt that goes off the right center field wall, sends Drew Stubbs all the way to the wall. But this ball just kept carrying and carrying, the wind blowing out towards right center field. And Drew knew that ball was coming up there at some point, just unable to figure it out. But that would have been a great play had he been able to bring it back. So now, just like that, the Pirates have the tying run at 90 feet away.
For the infield in. Well, Fisher, we talked about the outing on Saturday for him. He came into the game in the 7th inning. And he allowed 5 straight batters to reach, and all 5 scored. He did not get a single out. Gave up 4 hits and a walk. 2-0 the count on Jaramillo. Jaramillo already with a run batted in today. And there's a strike, 2-1. Ramon Vasquez stands in the on-deck circle. He would bat for Daniel McCutchen. And there's a base hit into right. That is 7 straight batters now that have reached against Carlos Fisher. Of course, he has been pitching a lot. It's a 3-3 game.
Well, the 5 runs he gave up against the Dodgers the other day, by far the worst outing he's had all year. Last time he pitched against the Pirates, though, he was touched for a couple of runs in 1 inning. That was at Pittsburgh last week. This one, a jam shot right there. Sometimes you get a good break, sometimes you get a bad break. You make a good pitch, you expect good outing or get a good result. That doesn't always happen. The jam shot results in a base hit, and it's a tie ball game.
Well, here is Ramon Vasquez. Fisher is pitching for the 6th time in the last 10 days. Talked about all the extra inning games the Reds have played here lately. 5 of them in their last 12 games. Here's a rocket that'll be a double play.
And sometimes you make a bad pitch and it results in a good result. Like that one, hanging breaking ball goes right to Joey Votto, and he'll step on the bag for a twin killing. Well, every reliever out there has been up and in a ball game, it seems, seemingly, if not every day, every other day. Francisco Cordero, the Reds closer, has pitched 5 out of 6 days. I doubt that he would be available today. He just did not have much on the ball at all yesterday.
Well, the final numbers on Wells, it's too bad now he cannot get the win, nor can he get the loss. But 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, walked 4, hit a batter, struck out 2, but left with a 1-run lead. The 2 outs for McCutchen.
Yeah, he actually pitched a lot better after he got to about 80 pitches. I'm a little surprised that the Reds didn't run him out there one more inning. He had 108 pitches. Wouldn't say that's undue or over the limit. It's not like he's a young arm that you're going to protect.
Well, I mean, Chris, you talk about it all the time, and we talk about it all the time. There's a big difference in the way you can get to 107 pitches. Today was not a big stress game for Wells. He had the 2 batters he allowed on a walk and a hit batsman and gave up back-to-back hits. That was in the 2nd. Only 1 base runner in the 3rd. First 2 reached in the 4th. But then he got the double play and a ground out and then retired 6 in a row. But he cannot win. Time for the 7th inning stretch as the Pirates tie the game at 3. Presented Dealer in the Ford F-150 2009 Motor Trend Truck of the Year. By Aflac, we've got you under our wing. By your Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky Honda dealers, visit mycincinnatihondadealer.com for current offers. And by McDonald's of Greater Cincinnati. Another spectacular weather day in Greater Cincinnati. In a 3-3 game as the Reds come to bat in the bottom half of the 7th inning. Joe Hanrahan comes on in relief of Daniel McCutchen, who goes 6 innings in his major league debut. Allows 5 hits, 3 runs earned. He struck out 5 and walked a couple of bats. So his mom and dad are very proud of his effort today. They'd have been proud if he'd have given up 10. He's in the major leagues.
I'll tell you, he's been very impressive too. He's got better stuff than what the people told us he would have, Tom. I mean, here lately in the 6th inning, he was throwing the ball 94, 95 miles an hour. He's still up in the low 90s. This young man's got a chance to be a very, very good pitcher.
Breaking ball in the dirt to Craig Tatum. He'll be followed by Paul Yanish, who stands in the on-deck circle. He would bat for Carlos Fisher. And then Drew Stubbs. Now, Hanrahan is on quite a roll. He has only allowed 1 hit, while not allowing a run his last 7 games away from PNC Park, and he has struck out Tatum to begin the Reds' 7th inning. In fact, you go back over his last 21 games overall. 21 games. And this guy has a 1.47 ERA. One ineffective inning for Carlos Fisher. He allows a couple of hits and the game-tying run. One 1-0 on Paul Yanish. Bound back to the screen. Undoubtedly, we'll see Yanish in the starting lineup at short for a game 2 of the series. Paul had a very nice road trip. That series against Milwaukee, both in the field and at the plate. Had 4 hits during the Dodgers series. And Chris still trying to show Dusty Baker and Walt Jocketty, the general manager, that he is worthy of being an everyday player looking ahead to 2010.
I think defensively that question has already been answered. I mean, he can flat out pick it at shortstop. The question is, and it's like this for a lot of young players, will you hit enough to be an everyday player? No longer is shortstop one of those positions where you can be a good fielder and no hit. On this ball club, you've got to be able to deliver a little bit on offense.
And he has drawn a walk with 1 out here in the 7th inning of a 3-3 game.
Well, I love this day you're going to talk about in just a second here, the Bark in the Park. My daughter Grace is all pumped up.
Should be. Tuesday, September 15th. The first 10,000 pet owners receive a pet food bowl, and while you're at the game, make sure to check out the Reds Dog Zone for products and samples and activities. Of course, there'll be a dog adoption brought to you by the SPCA before the ball game. And to reserve your seats, the last one was a sellout. Reds Bark in the Park. Visit reds.com/dog day. A great day. Great fun had by all. So is your daughter going to bring one of your dogs to the game?
Well, yes. Actually, she's politicking to bring both.
Really?
Yeah.
And politicking who?
Well,
you?
politicking, yeah, Debbie and myself, and see which one or both make the cut. She's got a new puppy that she'd love to show off. And when...
Now, you're talking about your daughter Grace?
Yeah.
Your little dog?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Want to make sure. So she would need some help bringing him down here. It's not like one of your other daughters could bring. I mean, they could do it on their own.
Yeah, we will have to recruit maybe one of the older daughters if I'm working that night to make sure that everything goes okay.
If you're working, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it could be you and the Cowboy up here for all
It might be. I have no idea.
Might be me down there in the dog zone.
A pitch in the dirt, and Giannis will advance on.
Better than the dog house, I guess.
Believe me, there's a lot of dog house up here.
I'm not sure what kind of pitch that was. Was that a splitter or an off-speed pitch of some kind? Had funny action on it, but Paul Giannis will advance to second base on a wild pitch. That looks like just a little bit of a cutter. Slider comes out of his hand. Yes, it is a little slider. Boy, does it really dip and gets by Jaramillo, the catcher. Hanrahan, kind of an oddity about him this year. He was dealt from the Washington Nationals to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But he was a pitcher of record in a suspended game that was being played by the Nationals in Houston. And when that game was finally finished off in 11 innings, the Nationals beat the Houston Astros 11-10. Meanwhile, Joe Hanrahan, where was he? The pitcher of record? He was in Philadelphia as a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates enjoying an off day. Got a phone call later today, said, guess what? You're the winning pitcher today.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. A victory that defies geography.
Gone swinging his Stubbs. 2 away in the inning, and the Reds need a base hit with 2 men out from Sutton to recapture the lead.
Well, they got a couple of breaking balls from the starting pitcher Daniel McCutcheon. Stubbs did, but there's nothing hanging about that one. That's got to be a splitter there. I can't be an off. Now that's a funny looking pitch he throws. It looks like a slider coming out of his hand because his fingers are on that side of the ball. But the way he throws it, it goes down and into a right-hander. I'm going to have to ask him about that pitch.
Well, Brandon Phillips will now come up to bat for Drew Sutton, hoping to break a 3-3 tie here in the 7th inning. It looked like the same pitch. Bottom fell out of it. Strike 1. Phillips in his career as a pinch hitter. Only 11 at bats, but he has 4 hits. And of the 4, 3 extra base hits, 2 doubles and a home run. And on the year, Brandon a .302 batter with runners in scoring position. So trying to get the Reds the lead for what would be the 3rd time in the game today. 2 balls and a strike.
After seeing him throw that pitch after pitch after pitch, I think that's just a slider that he stays right on top of and it goes straight down.
Tardy on a fastball is Phillips.
97 miles an hour on the radar gun here at Great American Ballpark. Boy, how about the Dodger relief corps? Oh, Joe Torre goes to the bullpen out there. Everybody out of that bullpen is throwing 95 or above. Jonathan Broxton yesterday hit 100 miles an hour 3 or 4 times.
We were talking before the game. The only time I can remember them having 4 guys that threw that hard was just a few years ago when Jim Tracy was the manager, when they had Yency Brazaban and Broxton as rookie pitchers. They had Mota then pitching the 8th inning in his first go round, and Eric Gagne was a closer. But not 6 or 7 guys down there. What was Quo, the left-hander, throwing 97 yesterday?
Unbelievable.
Bouncing ball to short, should in the inning, and it does. So we march on to the 8th inning in game 1 of a day-night doubleheader, and we're tied at 3. 2009. You can do it on your iPhone, your iPod Touch, and get real play-by-play. All the highlights. Visit Reds.com on your iPhone or iPod Touch. And don't miss any of Reds baseball this season. Multiple changes for the Reds defensively. It starts with Brandon Phillips. He remains in the play second. Paul Giannis stays in there at short. So Sutton and Rosales out of the game, and now taking over on the mound, the veteran left-hander Arthur Rhodes.
Third pitcher of the day for the Reds. 56 games now for Arthur Rhodes. He is 0-1 this year. 79 wins against 62 losses lifetime. In his 18th year as a major league pitcher. Came in for a third of an inning yesterday. Retired his man. And here he is back out there again to start a clean inning.
Delwyn Young, Garrett Jones, and Andy LaRoche due up in the Pirate 8th. 3 runs, 5 hits, 5 men left on base for the Reds. 3 runs, 4 hits, and 4 stranded for the Pirates. Well, Rhodes, like everybody else in that bullpen, has been used often. 5th time he's taken him out in the last 7 games. Of course, now he doesn't pile up the number of pitches that a lot of other guys down there do, because generally he's brought in for a third of an inning here, 2/3 of an inning there. Rarely, in fact not at all, has he pitched a full inning over his last 5 games.
I think you've got to go back 6 or 7 years to find a year in which Arthur Rhodes has pitched more innings than game appearances. Same for this year, more games than appearances. That tells me he's a situational lefty. And you turn Delwyn Young around. He's a switch hitter, not nearly the hitter from the right side of the plate that he is left-handed. So Rhodes takes care of him. You've got the left-handed hitting Garrett Jones, and more than likely this will be Rhodes' last hitter. So he'll come in to get the 2 so-called left-handers, the switch hitter Young and now Garrett Jones.
Chris, one could make the argument, and I think we've seen early in the year. Now, down the stretch as the season has gone on, I think Dusty has picked his spots a little bit differently with Rhodes as Massett is getting loose in the bullpen. He appears to be ready. Early in the year, Arthur Rhodes was pitching full innings out of the bullpen. You can make a case, though, when you look at this guy's numbers this year, you can make a case that just using him against left-handers might be overmanaged.
It could be, but at 39 years old, you have to make sure that you don't use him too much.
I agree.
Too long.
Which is why I think we've seen him in those 1/3 of an inning, 2/3 of an innings games as this year has gone on. I'm talking about his entire career. I mean, he's got a lot of right-handed hitters out, too.
Absolutely right. No question about that. I mean, a 267 batting average is pretty doggone good to hold other teams, too. But when you factor in the 130, then you see why he's mainly a left-handed specialist. I think the two things you consider with Arthur Rhodes. Number one, you don't want to use him too many days in a row. 2 days in a row probably is your max. You wonder whether he'll be available or can come back tonight. You hope so if the Reds need him. Secondly, if you warm him up in the bullpen, get him in the ball game. You don't want to waste an outing for Rhodes by warming him up, getting him all hot and ready to go, and then not needing him in the ball game, because that's almost like putting him in a game. That's a nasty curveball right here. He puts away Garrett Jones. You talk about a mismatch. Look at this swing. I think Dusty must have been hearing you talk up here, because they're going to leave him in there even though Massett's ready to go as a right-hander. They're going to leave Rhodes in there. He's throwing the ball so well right now.
Well, you have a decision here with a left-handed batter and Brandon Moss in the on-deck circle. You can be a little bit more careful with Andy LaRoche. Although, what are we talking about here? I mean, really, not to say that Roche can't hit the ball in the seats, but he got 7 home runs all year, playing every day.
Let's leave it at that number.
And that last pitch on the inside corner, nobody's going to hit that pitch. There's a fastball at 93, a little bit up in his zone, and LaRoche comes up empty.
You know, some guys just throw harder than they appear.
You're right.
Late life on the ball. I got to figure Arthur Rhodes is in that because I see him throw 90-mile-an-hour fastballs right by guys. Like Clayton Kershaw yesterday. I mean, he wasn't dialing up there at 98, but at 92, 93, he was overpowering. A mismatch. Late life on the fastball is really what it's all about. How close you are to home plate, what kind of extension you get. But that late little snap that you can get off your fingertips. That's the difference.
LaRoche trying to put LaRoche away. The Reds have the heart of the order coming up in the bottom of the 8th inning. Votto, Rowland, and Johnny Gomes in his 3-3 affair. Two now on LaRoche. Payoff pitch coming on Andy LaRoche from Arthur Rhodes, and it's fouled back out of play. Pretty good battle here. Sounded like he may have broken his bat, perhaps not. It remains 3-2 on LaRoche. 2 outs, nobody on. We're in the 8th inning of a 3-3 game. And again, a reminder, we still have one more game coming your way tonight. Right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Game 2 of this doubleheader. Johnny Cueto will start for the Reds, and there's ball 4 to Moss, or to LaRoche, and Moss coming up.
Pretty good pitching matchup right there. The left-hander Paul Maholm, an even 7-7 record against Johnny Cueto, who will be fresh off the disabled list and anxious to show some stuff tonight. Looking forward to seeing Johnny pitch again. I know there's some people around here that say, you ought to shut him down the rest of the season. I think skipping him like they did a couple of starts will be just fine for him. I know he's anxious and biting at the bit to pitch. I mean, the kid always wants the baseball. I imagine tonight there'll be pretty close attention paid to the pitch counts for Johnny Cueto.
0-1 on Brandon Moss. Go ahead running first with 2 men out, and there's strike 2 called. A fastball on the outer edge. Rose trying to put away Moss and give the Reds a chance to take the lead in the 8th inning, and it looks like that's what he'll do. Fields cleanly, good throw, inning over. Well done, Arthur Rhodes. Sir Arthur. He should be called with a year he's having. A couple of strikeouts in the inning. Reds bat in the 8th. We're tied at 3. play of the game, Scott Rowland. Nice play to his right. And a nice pick on the other end by Joey Votto to take care of Andrew McCutchen. Our John Morrell hot dog play of the game. All right, Joe Hanrahan still on the mound for the Pirates. Reds bat in the bottom of the 8th inning of a 3-3 game. Part of the order coming up. Votto, Rowland, and then Johnny Gomes. Hanrahan, a couple of strikeouts, 1 walk in a scoreless 7th inning. Reds had the lead at the end of 6. But Carlos Fisher gave up the tying run after 2 batters he faced in the 7th. A triple by Ronnie Cedeno and a run-scoring single by Jason Jaramillo. Two and two to Joey Votto. 0 for 3 today. Lined out to center in the opening inning. Bounced out to Jones at first in the 3rd. And then popped up to the shortstop Cedeno, ending the 5th. Tied up on that pitch. And he's gone on strikes.
Well, that is some kind of nasty pitch following 2 98-mile-an-hour fastballs. You come with that little over-the-top slider right there by Hanrahan. Man, oh man, that's an unusual grip that he's got on that baseball, and really kind of a strange spin too. You'd think that a slider would have more of a rotating spin. That ball just goes straight down with great arm action. I may have to do a CBTS tech talk with Joel Hanrahan, find out the secret of that pitch.
And I'll tell you, you watch this guy, and I know it's only 1 game here today. There's a weak pop-up by Rowland to the shortstop Cedeno for out number 2. I mean, you got to wonder what in the world was going on with Hanrahan with the Washington Nationals. Because ever since this guy has come to the Pirates, I mean, he's not only been crisp, he is dominating people.
I'll tell you, the only change that you can consider, I mean, maybe a change of venue will help, but you get into a different pitching coach and different, not necessarily philosophy, but phraseology, where you say the same thing in different ways. Most pitching coaches are saying the same thing. Joe Kerrigan, the new pitching coach over here with Pittsburgh Pirates, he's done a nice turnaround with a number of these Pirate pitchers.
I know you have known and liked Joe Kerrigan for a long time.
Joe Kerrigan was actually the bullpen catcher when I was playing for the Montreal Expos back in the early 80s. He had a minimal amount of time as a major league pitcher, but he's been around a long time. In fact, Kerrigan, if you remember, was at one time the interim manager of the Boston Red Sox.
I mean, you and him go way back.
And this guy, he studies pitching as much as anything. I mean, he gets a lot of detractors to say, hey, he's a little over the top, but he works as hard as anybody in trying to get it right. And he's had some measure of success already right here in Pittsburgh.
Wow. I mean, your guy, Mr. Kerrigan, has clearly gotten through to Joel Hanrahan. We go to the 9th, tied at 3. At Great American Ballpark, no alcohol permitted, and field level seating. It is the perfect place for your next family outing. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or go to reds.com. Beautiful day in the ballpark, and we're playing a day-night doubleheader. Game 2 coming up at 7 o'clock with Reds Live beginning at 6:30 right here on Fox Sports Ohio. 3-3 game at the end of 8. And now taking over on the mound is right-hander Nick Massett.
Well, the Reds have already had 3 extra inning games in the last 6 days, 5 in the last 12. And you know what Dusty Baker's thinking about right here as he sends Nick Massett out to the mound for the 55th time this year. 4 relievers had to cover 4.5 innings or 4 1/3 innings yesterday, and he's got to do the same thing today with his relievers, trying to cover the back end of this ball game. Hoping that Massett can hold them right there and the Reds can come around and win it in 9. Darnell McDonald goes to right field.
So another guy in Massett who is now pitching for the 5th time in the last 7 games. I mean, that is really the story on everybody in that bullpen. Massett, Cordero, Fisher, Herrera, Rhodes, Burton. I mean, everybody has been pitching a great deal. With all the extra inning games and the tight games the Reds have been playing in, there's a appeal down to first, and he went around. And that is strike 3 on Lasting's Millage, 1 away here in the Pirate 9th.
Pretty good looking curveball right here from Nick Massett. He's got all 4 pitches. Fastball, curveball, splitter. He comes right over the top right here and throws that baby down, and it bounces in front of home plate. Tatum gets out to block it, and Millage cannot hold up.
Ronnie Cedeno led off the 7th inning with his team down a run against Carlos Fisher and tripled, I beg your pardon, off the right center field wall, and then scored the tying run when Jaramillo knocked him in with a single to right. And we're still tied here in the top of the 9th inning. Gonna be a tough play here. Roland bare hands throws, not in time. Great effort by Roland, did all he could, but Cedeno a step quick.
Well, there are a lot of third basemen to pick that ball up and stick it in their back pocket. Roland made it very close at first base, a bang bang play. Solid.
Massett wanted that out. Dan Iasonia, the umpire at first base, says no deal. Infield hit by Cedeno. So here's Jaramillo's had a good game. 2 out of 3 with a couple of RBIs. It's pretty evident that Jaramillo is a guy that will put the ball in play. Would not be surprised at all to see John Russell get the runner started here with the bottom part of the order. Ball 1 low.
Not only does Jaramillo put the ball in play, he's got a pretty good eye up there. He's walked 17 times, struck out only 25 times.
Tony Beasley, the third base coach, giving the signs to Jaramillo. And grounded. That's fair ball. And that will be a double play to end the inning. So the 0-3-6 double play. And the Reds will have a chance to win it in the bottom of the 9th inning. Valentine to start things off. Cincinnati's office movers keeping businesses on the move. We're on our way to the bottom of the 9th inning. Game 1 of a day-night doubleheader between the Pirates and the Reds. And we're tied at 3. Vladimir Valentin to be followed by Darnell McDonald and then Craig Tatum against Jesse Chavez, making his 60th appearance. He's had a pretty doggone good year.
He really has, but good riddance to Joel Hanrahan. He came in here for the last couple of innings in the 7th and 8th and was just about unhittable. Struck out 4 batters in those 2 frames, and he'll give way to another strikeout pitcher in Chavez. 40 strikeouts for Chavez and only 16 bases on balls. This guy is always around the plate.
And where Chavez has been so effective, and really it's a recipe for all relievers, how do you fare against the first batter you face coming out of the bullpen? And he's just dominating. Strike 1 to Valentin. He has allowed just 11 base hits to his first batter faced. That's 54 official at bats for a .204 batting average. 0-1. A ball and a strike. Two and 1 to Valentin. Oh, there was a cut. He'd like to have that one back. Chris, you were the first guy to point out all of the opposite field power, but you noticed right away from Vladimir Valentin.
I got a tip on that. I had heard that Ken Griffey Jr. called the Reds upon the time that Valentin was designated for assignment, right before the Reds made a deal for Valentin. The word from Jr. was this guy's got immense power to right center field if he sits back and waits for it. So sometimes a good tip is better than a good eye.
One away in the inning, and now it's Darnell McDonald. And now Darnell back at the big league level. Boy, you know, after starting the year with a major league club and getting off to a shaky start, Darnell went down and had a very, very good year at Louisville. And there's a 1-out single here in the bottom of the 9th inning.
Well, he can hit a fastball. He proved that yesterday when he unjammed Clayton Kershaw early in that ball game for a long ball. Put the Reds up by 2 with that easy swing. And now that he's on base, he also has some speed. Wonder now with Craig Tatum up whether the Reds will try to get that winning run over to scoring position.
All right, Tatum in the game has bounced to third, walked and struck out. Darnell McDonald has had some huge stolen base years in the minor leagues, where he has spent the overwhelming majority of the time in his professional baseball life. He had only played in 21 major league games, going over 11 years. And that one's shot into right field. McDonald will stop at second base, so the Reds have the winning run in scoring position with 1 out here in the 9th.
Nice job by Craig Tatum to find a hole on the right side. You're thinking about going that way because you've got that first baseman snug over here right through the first base bag. So he finds a hole on the right side. The Reds go first and second, keep the inning alive, and now Paul Janisch.
course, Paul Janish's first major league hit was a game winner. If you remember, after he was brought up last year, replacing Jeff Keppinger on the 14th of May. He entered the game against the Marlins as a defensive replacement in the 8th inning, like he did today, and drove in the game-ending run, a base hit off Reniel Pinto. Giannis walked when he came in as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning of this game. Turns on one foul. Does Giannis have a game winner in him right here and right now?
Well, the Reds have the right guy at second base. One of the fastest active Reds out there is Darnell McDonald. The key for him now is to make sure he gets a nice secondary lead. Make an easy decision for Mark Berry at third to send him.
Pop up into right field, and able to make the grab is Moss, tagging and going to third McDonald. So the winning run now 90 feet away, but the Reds have 2 outs in the inning of a 3-3 game. Well, we talked about the game-winning hit last year by Giannis. Just recently, Drew Stubbs had a game-winning hit, a home run against the Giants. That was against Bobby Howry 11 days ago. The only question was it fair or foul, and it hit the fair pole.
I mean, way up on the fair pole, too.
McDonald's got to be alive down there at third. You talked about that secondary lead at second. Same thing at third.
If he's got 4 wild pitches, Chavez does, so he's got a chance of throwing one away.
That one down low. Ball 1 to Stubbs. Stubbs homered in the first, singled in the third. He has stolen a base, scored twice. He has struck out his last 2 times up, both times swinging. Two and 0. You know, no one wants to have a base hit or a wild pitch or a pass ball to bring in a run right now more than Dusty Baker.
Except maybe the guys out in the bullpen.
Good point. Our statistician supreme Mark Wagner points out to me there are probably a lot of Reds fans out there that think about a game-ending wild pitch. Remember 1972 in the League Championship Series with Bob Moose on the mound, George Foster at third, pinch running for Tony Perez. A wild pitch that scored the winning run in Game 5. 4-3 for the Reds. That one's in the dirt. Here comes McDonald, and here comes the throw, and the Reds win on a wild pitch. A final count of 4-3, like it was then in Game 5 of the '72 League Championship Series. A wild pitch by a Pirate reliever wins it 4-3 in the bottom of the 9th inning here on August 31st of '09.
Oh, you couldn't have scripted it any better than that, Tom Brennan.
Well, wasn't me. That's our buddy Mark Wagner.
You just finished talking about how it was against the Pirates since 1972, and a reenactment right here at Great American Ballpark this afternoon. Exactly as the clock strikes 4 o'clock in the afternoon, here comes Darnell McDonald. And the Reds win it.
A lot of base runners would have never taken his chance. McDonald never thought twice about it.
He's a football player, and that's the way he attacked home plate right there. The Reds take this one 4-3. Only 5 hits in the ball game by the Pirates, 7 hits by the Reds. Nick Massett will pick up the win and run his record to 5-1. And that's the way to start a day-night doubleheader.
Well, we are looking forward to game 2. Well, the Reds, after dropping 2 out of 3, especially that tough one yesterday in the final game of the Dodgers series, come back to win this one by a final count of 4-3. Congratulations, Darnell McDonald. And gutsy work today out of the bullpen by Rhodes and Massett. And really an excellent outing by Kip Wells.
It really was an excellent outing by Kip Wells. He gave the Reds 6 innings overall. Didn't look like he was going to be able to go that deep into the ball game. But he did, and of course the bullpen covered the last 3 innings, and the Reds won it in regulation without having to go to extras for the 4th time in 7 days. And Dusty Baker happy about that, looking for a sweep in today's day-night doubleheader.
And again, a reminder, Reds Live comes your way at 6:30 tonight right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Chris and I will have all the action beginning at 7. Final count in game 1 of our day-night doubleheader at Great American Ballpark. Reds 4, Pirates 3. We'll see